If you enjoy our podcast, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us bring you more content like this. You can find this episode and all of our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website, abqjournal.com, as well as YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. See the show notes for a discount code on a digital subscription. Thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading news.
Hey everyone, welcome to the latest edition of the Business Outlook podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Narvaiz, Journal Business Editor. I want to start off by thanking our sponsor, CNM. On the show today, I have Lisa Kuuttila, the CEO and Chief Economic Development Officer of UNM Rainforest Innovations. We talk all things patents, the startups that UNM Rainforest Innovations is incubating, and what the future holds for startups in New Mexico. Hope you enjoyed the show.
CNM is truly one college with infinite possibilities in tech and data sciences. CNM offers programs where everyone can learn about software, apps, or how to build websites. You can also choose from AI programs and machine learning, the Internet of Things, and so much more. CNM, one college, infinite possibilities, and a proud sponsor of the Albuquerque Journal's Business Outlook.
Lisa, thanks for joining the show.
I
wanted to start off by, letting you introduce yourself to our listeners. Can you tell us a bit about you, your role with UNM, and what UNM Rainforest Innovations is?
Yes. So I have been with UNM Rainforest Innovations for almost 22 years now, and I have worked for 4 other universities before that in similar kinds of positions. Early in my career, I worked in the semiconductor industry as an electrical engineer and marketing manager. My degrees are in electrical engineering and public administration.
So we're here to talk about patents today. Can you explain, what a patent is and what different types of patents are out there?
Yes, there are several different kinds of patents. The type that most people are familiar with are called utility patents, and they allow the inventors or the assignees, the person who owns or the entity that owns the patent, to assert that patent and say that they have rights. They have that exclusive right to anything that's issued in the claims of a patent. That's the important part of a patent, or what are in those claims. And those are the unique features of the invention, which could be a new method, it could be a product, could be a process. That's the most common kind of patent, called a utility patent. We also have design patents, which cover the shape of a product, such as this table. The iPhone that most of us use is covered by multiple design patents. They can be valuable, but they are easier to get around than a utility patent is. We also have plant patents, and plant patents actually cover new species of a plant that's developed. And then in the most recent kind of patent that was established is called a provisional patent. That provisional patent can be filed very early on. We file almost all of our patents initially as provisionals, and it establishes a date. That's called the first date of invention, priority date, and that means that you can convert that provisional, which is fairly low cost typically because you don't need a ton of information in it, to a utility patent within 1 year.
Mm-hmm. So, UNM Rainforest Innovations, what types of patents do you guys typically deal with here?
We generally start with a provisional patent on a new invention, and sometimes there are multiple provisionals, and then we roll those into one utility patent within that 1 year deadline. Now, it gets complicated because we have foreign patents too. And sometimes we'll file what's called a PCT application, and that can then be nationalized in different countries. We tend not to do that so much because it's pretty expensive when you start covering country by country. We generally will leave that to our licensee.
So the reason we're here today is because recently UNM ranked in the top 100 worldwide universities granted utility patents list for 2024. So this list is put together by the National Academy of Inventors. I want to ask, what is this list, and how many times has the university, been on it since its annual release, I think dating back to 2013?
It's an important list for universities. We all brag about where we are on this list. And as you mentioned, it's been around for a while now. UNM has ranked the last 10 out of 12 years on this top 100 patents issued list. That's significant because UNM is a mid-sized research university, and on this list, we're competing with everybody. So universities that are 4 or 5 times larger in terms of the research base of the various universities and international universities too. So the fact that we're in that top 100 is pretty significant.
How much does UNM Rainforest Innovations have to do with, making this list, which seems like pretty often?
Yes, as I mentioned, we start with provisional patents based on our disclosures that we have from researchers at UNM. For example, last year we filed 111 provisional patent applications, and we will then filed 87 regular patent applications or utility patent applications. So you can see there's some drop-off depending on what we learn about the invention, what the art is already, because we have to have something unique in order to get a patent. And then as it goes through that prosecution phase with the patent office, think about a back and forth negotiation. Oh, we think our claims are good because of this. And the patent office comes back and said, oh, but what about this art that we have found? How do you, distinguish your invention from what's already been patented? So we have that back and forth. That takes a few years. And then finally the patent will issue.
Yeah. So it's my understanding that UNM Rainforest works with, startups coming out of the university, correct? So maybe you could give us, an example of, what types of startups, UNM Rainforest is maybe incubating or has incubated in the past.
Great question. We've had 170 total startups over the years.
Oh, wow.
Now, they don't all survive.
Yeah.
Startups are very risky business, but we have over half of them are still active and in business, 50 of them here in New Mexico. So the majority of them are actually here in our state, which is what we want to have happen because then they help create jobs here. So companies like Pajarito Powder is here and scaling up. They make a non-platinum fuel cell catalyst material. A company like TS Nano, which is also another materials company that helps seal abandoned or leaking oil wells. And so really important technology to help with those toxic materials that are being leaked into the atmosphere. We also have a number of companies in the medical space, in life sciences. One of them that had an issued patent last year is called Knob Hill Therapeutics, and they have an inhalation device that makes that therapy much easier than current devices. Mm-hmm. So diagnostics, therapeutics. We have 3 cancer therapeutics that are in clinical trials. These companies are based outside of New Mexico where the infrastructure is better suited for them. Mm-hmm. But a wide range of technologies kind of matches the university's research strengths.
I know you had mentioned, wanting to keep some of these startups here in the state. In the case of
Yes.
Pajarito Powder, they recently expanded. I think they moved into a bigger building, if I'm not mistaken.
They did move into a bigger building, and they have about 40 employees now. So these are great jobs. One company that was started in 2006, IntelliSite, makes high throughput flow cytometry instrumentation, and they've grown to hundreds of employees, and they were acquired by a larger company in 2016. they're still here in Albuquerque. So that's what we want to see happen, is creating those great jobs in our state.
I want to go back to what you had mentioned about, UNM being a mid-size research university. It sounds like, being on this list, that we're definitely punching above our weight class here.
We are punching above our weight class in terms of patents, but also in terms of startups. We rank pretty high. We do 8 to 10 startups per year, and that puts us, definitely ahead of many large universities. So that's exciting too for our state.
Why is that? Does it have anything to do with, maybe the national labs we have surrounding us here in the state?
I think there's a variety of factors. The national labs are definitely a factor. For example, we have 250 issued patents that are jointly owned between Sandia and UNM. We have about 50 with Lannel. So there's a lot of joint research that occurs here in the state, which contributes to that. Another factor that I think is important is that we live in a state where people want to live. We have a great, environment here, and so we recruit entrepreneurs to work with our faculty who maybe have visited New Mexico. They love it here. They decide to move here. Maybe they have a second home in Santa Fe, and then they decide, hey, I think I want to do my next startup in New Mexico. So I think those are all factors that help us. Finally, I want to mention that the climate for investment has improved tremendously. And now we have a number of venture capital firms, angel investments. We have a great infrastructure that's helping us build our ecosystem.
Yeah. Maybe you could speak to, the sort of the technology ecosystem here in New Mexico. I mean, what was it like compared to, 2 decades ago when you took this job?
It's a great question. I think we were just at the very beginning stages in the early 2000s of starting to build that ecosystem. The state had actually, formed some venture capital investments at that time, and the angels were already active. So we had the beginnings of that ecosystem. But it takes a long time to build these entrepreneurial ecosystems. They don't happen overnight. But now we are really flourishing, we'll call it, in terms of where we are building startups, being a community that supports startups. And we've, at the university, this is one of our missions for sure, is our entrepreneurial economic development.
Where do you think we'll be 5, maybe 10 years from now?
I would hope that what we see in 5 to 10 years, we see it in a small way now, but those entrepreneurs that are successful and have successful exits, that they go on to start another business here in New Mexico, and their employees go on to start other businesses here in New Mexico. So that's the kind of thing that happens in Silicon Valley on a regular basis, is kind of that recycling of talent. So we need to attract talent, we need to retain it, and then support those entrepreneurs that want to continue to do startups.
Something I've heard from the community here is, all you need is that one unicorn. Do we have that one unicorn, or are we still looking for that unicorn?
We did a few years ago. We had Array Technologies,
yes,
that had $1 billion IPO. So, and we've had many smaller ones, and that's how you start.
Yeah.
That's how you start. You get that investment capital put to work with successes, recycled into the ecosystem, and more companies being started. And, even those that don't make it, those companies still have employees with lots of talent. Some of them start businesses, others go on to work for other companies here. So we are definitely seeing the early stages of that happening.
Awesome. Lisa, that's all I have for you. Thank you for joining the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Of course.